Thank you, Steffi. Thank you for having me over here. And thank you for the whole team, especially the BMC team. Just want to really say my gratitude for giving me this opportunity to fellowship with you all today. It's not easy to talk about this topic, especially because all of us may cringe about it because it's something that we all need, isn't it? We all definitely need and we can't do without it. However, I'm really commending the team for having chosen this topic because the scripture and the outline or the basis that I have for today that we need to be focusing on is from Colossians chapter 3, verse 17, which says, "Whatever you do, whether in word or in deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ." And so I'll keep that just as a scripture line for our thought process while I bring all the technical jargons to you about it. And there isn't anything that any of us doesn't know which I'm going to talk, but it's going to be a reminder more for a reflection, more to say, what is it that I want to do with the information that I have today about digital addiction? So digital addiction, let me just define it in simple words. In simple words, it's just nothing but an internet addiction or a technology addiction. It also refers to excessive and compulsive use of digital devices and anything online. So just connecting to any gadget and continuously wanting to have hands on the gadget is a part of the digital addiction. Which actually, is anything wrong with digitals? Certainly not. But what's more important to see in the completion of this definition is the excessive use and compulsive use. Those are two words I want you to keep in mind for the addiction definition. And also to complete it, it says it leads to negative effects on various aspects of an individual life. And what is so difficult for us right now is that since it's so essential and all of us just can't do without our mobile phones. And since it's so essential and our laptops and iPads and tabs or whatever, since it's so essential, we are unable to understand what is the negative impact it is having on us. Neither are we able to gauge when is it that we are tipping off from the border of just being normal, using it essentially, and then going off beyond into an addiction phase. And so here we are going to characterize digital addictions in three different ways that I want you to keep in mind is when you have lost control over your technology use. How would you know it? We won't know because you and me are going to choose to say, it was so urgent, I had to look at this message. It was so urgent, I had to reply to this email. And now we have it in fingertips. Just imagine those days when if we had to reply to an email, we had to go to our office and then do it. Or else when we return home, we had family time. We had time when we could just unwind. We would not have the system, isn't it? But now that it's been on our laps and then at our fingers, and then we have face stops, everything is so easy. And because of which, we are unable to recognize whether we have lost control because we can justify it in our mind. That's the first one on the characteristics. Second one I'd like you to keep in mind is a preoccupation with digital activities. So that leads to the third one, which is neglect of personal and social and professional responsibilities. What happens if I'm unable to talk to my children when they come and approach me? If I never had a gadget, when those days when I used to return back from school, I had my mom waiting at the end of the lane. And I had her at the door to hug me. I had her at the door where she would just sit and talk to me and listen to all my stories that I had to tell about school. and great catch up in detail about the classes, in detail about homework. That was the privilege of mothers those days. But nowadays, we want to ask ourselves, even when our spouse returns home, do we have that? Even when we return, do we have that? Or when we return home, we are like, let me unwind, and so let me get the gadget or take the remote, or let's take something else, isn't it? And so that is why we are not aware that we are losing control, because we think of it as an essential or put it in our mind and justify it as if it is important. So, in this talk today, I'm just hoping that all of you would continuously put your comments, give your questions, say whether that's something that you identify with, and an interactive session is what I was looking forward to. I was hoping that I'll see all your faces and I'll have somebody to ask a question to, but it seems like all of you are not on your videos. I don't know whether that's how it is, but then, well, we shall go with this, and let me know if you have questions, and then I'll love to interact at least that way. So, what are some signs and symptoms of digital addiction? So the question is, if this is the two names that I would continuously use for the sake of confidentiality, there are a lot of people that I help with in my profession who are struggling with gadget addiction or digital addiction. And so I would use Anita and Arun. Okay, so Anita's symptoms are that she's unable to sleep in the past few months, and she seems to take long to go to bed, and just when she's getting sleep again, she's waking up and she's unable to fall asleep. So many months, if there's a lack of sleep, it is definitely affecting a lot of other parts of the body, and definitely diminishing the focus and the concentration at workplace. And so that has been the struggle for Anita. So here we see that Arun, who is a 14-year-old, is struggling with the whole aspect of his academics. And what is the signs and symptoms for him? It is he's lost track of time. He's lost track of time of to how long he has been on his games or on his gadgets, and he has forgotten to do his assignments. The dues slip by, and so whether he's prepared for exams or whether he's able to prepare for exams is not something that's on his mind, simply because just as soon as school is over, the first thing that Arun would like to do is to say, I need this time because I was done with school, I need to unwind, and the first thing is run to the screen. And so when we're talking about loss of time, Arun not only had loss of track of time, another sign and symptom that he struggled with was that anytime his parents would say, this is done and over, you finished already 1 hour, there would be a lot of irritability. A lot of irritability, a lot of restlessness. And what is the irritability and restlessness coming from? In psychology, we call it withdrawal symptoms, isn't it? It's equivalent to any other addiction like cocaine, drugs, alcohol, nicotine, same, exactly the same. There are withdrawal symptoms, and the withdrawal symptoms for digital addictions are real. And the struggles that individuals have in terms of withdrawal, where the irritability and restlessness leads to even anger, because if you don't give it to me, I can't do without it. And so that's what the addiction does to the brain. And then it causes Arun to now have not only loss of track of time, he not only is struggling with withdrawals and irritability, it affects his relationships at home. And he's unable to connect with his siblings. He's unable to understand what exactly the teacher is teaching in the classroom, because his whole focus is on getting more and more as possible from the screen. Because now, has this happened overnight? No. It usually happens when one has an excessive and compulsive way of it. So if we're talking about individuals over here, if you have had it controlled and you know that you're just going to do 20 minutes and close and it doesn't affect you, and if you don't have the compulsive need, I have to complete it, I have to see one more, I have to read one more, then it is something that you want to pay attention to when you have loss and track of time. So we have two different individuals that I was talking about. Anita is about aged 40s and Arun was age 14. I had another person, again we'll call her Anita for the sake of confidentiality, and this Anita is about 86 years old. She's recently been working with me, not in this country, but she's definitely 86 and asking me for help, having to say, I need to get these two things out of my system, both her phone and her tablet. So is she actually working? What is actually troubling her? At 86, she can have her phone and her tab. She has finished life. She can do anything she wants, isn't it? No, but she was very clear that what were the signs and symptoms for her. So she again had issues with sleep. Whole night she's been awake. And she said that she has no idea as to how long she has been going on with these excessive digital practices. And so what we are actually looking at here is the signs and symptoms for three different individuals, three different age groups. And nowadays we also have research on the damages that have happened for the children. Even from the time they are born, you see people giving them gadgets, which is a real sad thing. My heart really goes out for kids, but then at the same time, it's more the awareness and responsibility of a parent. So a child from 1 year old all the way to 5 having gadgets in their hands is really, really sad. The effects and the importance of it are numerous. So I guess the parents who are here, who have children of that age group, can actually pay attention to more the stats and the research on that area. That will be good. But today I'd like to actually help you understand from this list of either Anita or Arun and these three different individuals. I'd like you to just focus and ask yourself, do you find this happening for yourself? Because when we are in sessions like this, it's not that you have a lack of information of what I'm talking for you. You will have this and you can get it from anywhere. But more importantly, when you're keeping this time to listen to this topic, it should be more reflective. So now take a moment to think, do I have, what are my signs and symptoms? Is there preoccupation of it in such a way that continuously you're engaged in your gadgets? Either it's a phone, the tab, the television, it is social media on the each of these, or whether it's gaming, any of these. All of that could be a part of the digital addiction. So we are talking about internet addiction. We're talking about all activities on the internet. We're talking about TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And let's see that all of these range of, if the notifications are not on, then it's a lot more easier, because then you're not going and choosing to go there. But if the notifications are on, then that is one way that you can keep a tab of it. Then gaming addictions. I have, this is a beautiful example for me to share with you. Both Anita and Arun had got married for just about less than 6 months. They were in two different places, and then because of the requirement of their job and because of the COVID season, they had to shift and find a place. And so during that time of having to get a job and move to a place, he thought it's nice to get into making money in a faster way. And if you notice in on the cricket, every time there would be something called Dream 11, he explored that. He went into exploring on gambling on Dream 11, and it's never advertised as gambling, isn't it? But you get into that place, and that space and that world is so different. Arun was not only taking a lot of money from his father, having to say, "Oh, I don't have a job right now. When I get a job, I shall return the money to you." So he had already taken lots of money from his father, who recently retired. And then he started borrowing money from his brother. And then his newly wedded wife got to know it. And then how did she get to know? Because he was also depleting the joint account finances. And then the in-laws got involved. So now when they came into the counseling room, as they came in as a family, because they needed to address the large amount, it was already about 25 lakhs. So 25 lakhs money in just a short span of less than 3 months is a lot on gambling, isn't it? So what exactly happens is the individuals who are creating the games and creating all of these sites causes in such a way that you have to come back or read more or watch more, and that's how it is, since the feeds are done that way. And hence you and me need to be more aware as to why is it that I continue and lose track of time. And it is basically because of the way it is designed, isn't it? So any of the online gambling, then another part of the digital addiction, the largest domain of people who are struggling and suffering, and which is a silent one, is porn addiction. And I just want all of you to be aware that it is a real killer, because once it starts, there's no end to it. You come to your mind to keep telling yourself, I know if I want to stop, I stop. But that's the deception of addiction. You just get into it. It's like the marshy sand that keeps sinking. It just keeps going down and down, isn't it? So that's what it is. And then the other is the chats and the cyber relationship addictions that are on, which is again on a real high right now. So I'd like you to just be focused on identifying for yourself, is there preoccupation for yourself on this area? Loss of track of time, neglecting responsibilities. That is when you need to be talking to people, or neglecting responsibilities at work, at school. You're not having sufficient time with your family members, individuals where you have to be responsible to, even at workplace relationships. Your friendships are falling apart. Neglect on hygiene. That's your personal responsibility, isn't it? If you feel that, okay, on a daily basis, I'm unable to take a shower because I sat on the phone and I just lost time, or I kept the remote in my hand and I lost time. So neglect. So anything that's affecting your necessary responsibility, your personal responsibility, that is also a part of a symptom. Another one that you want to ask yourself is if you have irritability, if you can't find your phone, or if it's taken away from you, or if you don't have the time to continuously watch your TikTok. All of that would also be something that you want to keep an account to in identifying it for yourself. Another way that you can identify for yourself is tolerance and the escalation of or the neglect of tolerance. You need increased amount of time on the online, and to achieve that level of satisfaction or engaging, then you're getting into more riskier behaviors online, and so that can also take place. So the interference of relationships I've already mentioned, as most importantly, that's happening around us. And the physical symptoms are headaches, migraines, eye strain, dry eyes, sleep disturbances, and all of that. So if any of these that I've mentioned is something that you identify, please notice that we can look and discuss and pay attention to what is it that we have to do in terms of overcoming it. At the moment, I also want to say another thing that people do to go to gadgets or internet addiction is when you are continuously having real life problems. If you're having stress, or there's some crisis or tragedy that's happened in your life, and if you're having some negative vibes in your relationships, then if you cannot cope effectively by facing it, by talking it, addressing it, and that's a healthy way of coping. But if that's not happening, then another way of coping that many people choose is the internet, is the addiction of any gadgets. So keep in mind what's happening in your life. Is that also a reason why you're actually escaping? So we call that as escapism, escaping into another world, which is the virtual world. And just so that you can put your mind off and say, I need some peace, I need some break from what's happening at home or at work, and because of which I'm doing it. So are any of these signs and symptoms a part of you? Is any of these that you can identify with? Take a moment to think about it. Well, the most part of this session should be how to overcome, which I'm just going to focus on right now, is recognize the problem first. That's why I was asking you while I was explaining the signs and symptoms. Recognize the problem. Acknowledge that you have a digital addiction and understand its impact on your life. So if you don't understand the physical impact, the emotional impact, the social impact, and the economic impact on your life, you would not be able to get out of it. So the very first thing is, can you focus on acknowledging, yes, this is my problem. I do acknowledge that I have an addiction. So recognizing that is important. Telling it to someone who you can be accountable to is important. Most of addictions cannot be overcome without accountability. And so if you have a good buddy system here, you have someone who's a good friend, someone who can rely on, that is a person that you want to keep in touch with and say that this is your decision, this is where your struggle is. So let's move to the second part after you've acknowledged it. The second part is set goals and limits in such a way that you can pay attention to. I think someone was asking a question on the phone addiction part of it. I think the setting goals and limits is a part of that answer to you. So when we're talking about setting limits, assess your current digital usage. Both the iPhone and the Android have a settings, and in the settings all of us are aware that through the settings you can make out how many hours you've used your phone, and it also gives you the breakup, how many hours or minutes on WhatsApp, on Instagram, on TikTok, or whatever are your apps, whether it was the email or whether it was just the news. Because one of the things that I found myself struggle with is reading news. And then afterwards, there would be, my attraction was more on research papers. And so if there's any new research that comes, I go on reading from one research to another, which is endless, because that's how it is on the phone. It is not like a textbook that those days when we had, read it, mark a page, and then get to other things to do, or at least get to bed. It doesn't work, isn't it? And hence, we have to understand, first gauge, what is your current digital usage? Take time to identify it. There was one person that recently, again, I think Anita was about 35 years old, Anita. She has children of age 8 and children, another daughter at age 4 or 3, I think. And what she was telling me was that she's addicted to TikTok. And she's like, nothing else matters to her, but she just needs to watch TikTok. And sometimes she's staying awake in the night doing that. Or when the children return from school, the children have already returned 3 hours back from school, and she's not yet given them a snack. She's not taken them for a shower. She's not done any interaction with them. And so she realized that, and she just came to me for help on that. So assess which part of your the digital addiction is your problem. That is also important. So if it is on your tabs, you will have to identify whether it is LinkedIn and whether it is a lot of good information there, but a lot of information. Do I need all the information, or when do I stop? If it is connecting with doing a lot of LinkedIn courses, it seems like a good thing, but then when is an end to it? So keep keep an eye on understanding if you want to set goals and limits to overcome. Identify which app, what in this area of your life in the digital usage is taking the largest amount of time, and whether it is impacting you in your relationships and your productivity. Please have a review and assessing on that. After which, define your priorities. So, consider the activities and relationships that matter most to you. This will provide a very clear understanding of what you want to achieve and the areas where digital addictions may be hindering your progress. So, when you define your priorities, having to say, okay, fine, my priorities is that before the children are going to bed, I need to at least have half an hour or 1 hour work conversations with them. I need to make sure that I'm having more than an hour of evening connecting with my spouse. I need to make sure that I'm connecting. So relationships are what is maximum affected now, isn't it? And because there isn't a place to keep it. So some of the individuals have become really, really hard on themselves and wise, I would say, in that process to create a box with a lock. And at their door, when they enter, they would put their gadgets all the 4 members of their house. I know that this is one family who has told me that they create a box and they put it all in there as soon as they enter, and then they get back to use their gadgets only after their dinner, after their family prayer, and then they get a half an hour to use it and again go put it back. But they don't allow their gadgets into their bedroom. And so if you are wondering how to do that boundary, here is that boundary for you to see where exactly do you actually allow it to come into your room when people are talking. So what would it mean for you to remove? Because the first thing the brain will be telling you is, oh, it doesn't work for me because I'll have emergency calls. Then you'd know that you're already trying to defend yourself, and that is an addiction that's craving there. It could be real, it could be true, no doubt, but can you use your phone and leave it there and not look at it? Can the notifications be turned off? And turning off notifications is really helpful, and even keeping it on vibrator, and then having to say, okay, I would only just choose to take calls at a particular time, and that would be a lot more healthier for you. If you have to see that you're not on a medical doctor's call, there would be IT professionals who are working at different time zones, but then on the other time zones when it's not your work hours, can you keep a tab for it? So those are things that you want to keep in mind when you're trying to define your priorities. And when you're doing your goals, it is important to see whether it is specific and whether it is measurable, whether it's attainable for you. If you're going to say, okay, fine, from now on, I'm never going to touch TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram, you will have withdrawals if you have used it excessively till now. And so make it realistic. If that is a place where you do have a lot of conversations, then cutting off from it would be difficult. And hence, if you can do something radical like that and you can afford it, it's nothing connected to any of your current relationships, there are individuals who've done something so radical and it has helped them. But keep in mind what is important for you in terms of work. But if that is an excuse, then you know what you want to do, isn't it? So if it is not attainable and then realistic, what happens is you tend to reverse and go back to it. That's the problem with addictions. Well, create a schedule or a routine on what you do. As soon as you come back home, there is a routine what you do. As soon as you wake up, there is a routine what you do. Recently, my husband observed and made an assessment from his phone, and he saw that the number of hours he's using his phone. And so as the iPhone kept giving him reports every day, he decided that the first thing he wakes up, he's not going to touch the phone. And the other thing that we did with our children was we said that we will keep their phones away and we'll ask them to turn it off and then leave it in our rooms. And so they started getting good 6 to 7 hours of sleep, or else they were actually sleeping in the classrooms at their college and unable to pay attention to what is important. And so, how is it that you can create a boundary in such a way that you're able to assess and see? And another thing that my husband, as I was sharing with you, what he did was early morning he would get up and he decided that he will use an alarm clock rather than the mobile phone. And that's why we got the children two new alarm clocks and not the phone. The other one is to, as soon as he wakes up, starting to use not the digital Bible, but use a hard copy Bible. Because then while you're using a Bible, if you are reading a Bible and if you have a habit of doing so in the morning, then what happens is it interferes. So try and see what exactly he did was he chose to finish everything of his responsibilities in the morning and then choose to take the phone. So what is it that you could do in order to do that as a routine? Because as a routine, you might have a shower as a routine. You may have a time for making sure that every morning you are brushing your teeth and making sure you are eating your 3 meals. Those are routines. So in case you need to overcome any of these addictions, setting them as a routine and keeping them as a timing as to when you would do and what you would not do is what actually helps you overcome this much faster, and you will see a progress. So creating a schedule or a routine is the key here. And then practicing self-discipline. When you're talking about practicing self-discipline, we're talking about it is very crucial that you take ownership. That is, self-discipline is so crucial for managing the digital addiction. Because if you want to ask someone else to be responsible for you to overcome it, it really won't happen. And in case you say, okay, fine, someone else is responsible why I'm on it continuously, and because my husband doesn't give me time, and that's the reason I'm on my phone. My parents are so busy at work, and that's why I'm on gaming. If we let the responsibility be on someone else, we will not be able to overcome. So that's why self-discipline is so critical, to say that I take responsibility to overcome this. And so what does that self-discipline look like? Consider using strategies like reminders, alarms, and setting alerts as to putting a check on how many times did you do this particular routine. So if you have said, okay, fine, I'm not going to use the phone as an alarm, I'm going to keep the phone away from 8 to 9, and then that is your plan, then tick it off and record it continuously to create it as a habit. And if you have to create it new, you'll have to do it consistently for about 3 months. So do it consistently for 3 months. Anytime you break it on the 10th day or 15th day, then start after that as 1, and then continue, and then say, okay, 3 months again begins from after that. Say if you've done good with 30 days and the 31st day you didn't do well, then you start from that again as 1. And so that is how you would have to be so strict with yourself. That's why I mean self-discipline. No one else can put it in. Only you have to put it in for yourself, isn't it? So, well, I just would long to know whether y'all are having any of these, benefiting you. Just let me know on the chat and help me understand how is it going for you. Do you identify with any of these? Are these tips of some benefit for y'all? There has to also be, to overcome this, you need to establish digital free zones. There should be certain areas in your home where you have to announce saying there's no digital. And that for us at home is the children can't take it to their toilets, they can't take it to their rooms. If they are using their phones or their computers, it will be in the hall, in the study table, and there is a space for it. So what will it be for you? How do you want it? In certain places, there are certain homes who I remember they sharing with me that in their dining room, none of them should bring their gadgets. And in their seating area where they have to do their catch up in their garden balcony, they don't bring gadgets. So those are some things that you want to establish for yourself. What will that look like for you to keep that? So if it is bedroom, it has to be a digital free zone. Try and see what you can do if that suits you. Another way of having to say digital free zones can also be specific timings. What about meal times? All meal times, no gadgets. All times whenever there's some visitors coming home, when you are going for social gatherings, the digital or the phones or any other things would be in your bag or in your pockets and not being used. So those are different ways that you can train yourself to get out of excessive usage or any compulsive usage, so to say. Exploring, the other one is I definitely had to mention right in the beginning, seeking support and accountability. If all of these are really not working out for you and you see that you don't have consistency, taking immediate support before it takes you through a decline of any neurological problems because of this, it is better for you to take help right away and explore other alternative activities. I will talk more on different activities that you can do, but currently something that I'd like to just drop in there is activities like reading books, which is just gone nowadays, are not there. Again, it'll go to digital books. So reading the hard copy books, pursuing a hobby, and exercising regularly or engaging in a particular sport every day will also reduce the compulsive need for the digital addictions. So how about taking a walk in the nature, going and meeting a friend? Take if some of you are more happy to do meditation either individually or as a group, to engage face on face interactions rather than only creating this Zoom interface or whatever that we talk about. So practicing mindfulness also for some of them helps, and a lot of people have mentioned including mindfulness in their routine gives them a lot more space. And so some of the breathing exercises, some people are very happy to do so. Evaluate and adjust what exactly is helpful for you in this list of things that I had mentioned. And now when we're talking about creating a digital detox plan, how do you start doing a digital detox plan? These are important specifically for individuals who have excessive use and don't know how to get out of it immediately. So the immediate step you can take is to create this digital detox plan, and that is basically to start with defining your objectives. So what is an objective that you'd like to look at is start by identifying why you want to undertake a digital detox. So first mention that to yourself and get it straight in your mind as to why do I want to get out of it? Is it because others say it, or because I realize it, the impact on my brain, on my physical, on my emotional, on my social, and the economics of what is going to happen, whether it's my studies or whether it's my workplace, what happens. And hence, it is important for you to think of it, word it out for yourself. Define that objective, why you're taking the detox. So whether it's to improve your productivity, mental well-being, spend more time with loved ones, articulate that, and it'll help you have that objective as your motivation to move forward. The other one, in the next step for a digital detox plan, is to assess your current digital habits, which I already mentioned, even for your setting of goals. Making the clear boundaries of it and putting it in, and then having to say that for how long you're not going to be staying away from things in a very radical way. And so the detox is actually staying away from all gadgets, and that is the whole plan for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, and then planning that digital detox time. And it will really help for individuals who are struggling with any of this that we are talking about as digital, any of this, any of the internet, whether it is gaming, gambling, is it porn, or whether it is any of these. But of course, the some of them do have a change in the brain capacity, simply because if it is your usage has been too high, it does, the brain scans shows exactly like drug addiction and alcoholics, they definitely have a similar brain scan. When we talk about addicts have the same impact basically. So we're talking about creating the schedule as well, and what is the structured plan that you will put in. And the most important thing in detox plan is what are you going to be doing instead of those. So if it is going to be meeting with people, if it's going to be increasing your sports time, all of that has to be articulated in a more specific way. So that would be important. Practicing self-discipline, I've also mentioned, which is a part of the detox plan, and reflecting and being accountable to someone in the detox again. So when we're talking about the offline activities, so long, why is it that all of us are addicted to it? Because of the online itself. So now let's move to understanding what are some offline activities that you can do. So I'd like to engage with all of you on the chat. What are some offline activities that you do which are not digital? So let me hear from y'all. Oh, I like this question. I think one of you were asking, why do we feel so lonely if we use a lot of screen time? Why do we feel so lonely? I'm so glad you mentioned that we do feel lonely. It is a reality. And the very fact that you do feel lonely, in spite of having so much and so many individuals to interact with, and so many people are saying this and that, it seems like you are in connection with people, but in real it's not, and they are fake. And those interactions are just that, okay, they just put in information there, but not necessarily a heart to heart connection. But human beings, God has created us with the need and the capacity to connect in a tangible ways. And that physical connection cannot be replaced with a digital relationship. And that is the whole reason why the loneliness hits so hard. And some of them, actually, it's such a cycle. Some of them who come to me saying that, I'm stuck with the digital addiction because I'm lonely. And then it is not necessary that they are actually finding friends there. It keeps them more lonely, and it keeps them stuck in that place, isn't it? And so it is really important to understand that. That's a good question. Yes, I think one of you have mentioned that you like the physical activity is walking. Good. Physical activity is walking. Great. What else? I'd like all of you to just put in what are some offline activities that you do. It could be anything. What are some things that you engage with? If I give you a list, reading book, excellent. Act, art like drawings, excellent. Reading books, hard copy reading books. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes. Early morning drives, new park, excellent. That is, walking in the nature is very therapeutic, and it will definitely create a lot of uh, healing to the eyes, away from the digital that we have to constantly work with or study with. That's good. Driving around with the family, it's a beautiful way of connecting. Gardening is a nice one as well. Good. Great. So I thank you so much for sharing all of that. I just like to say that another thing that recently I was talking to my daughter. She was doing her internship in one of the foundations nearby, and she was telling me that she met two individuals at the foundation, and their age was something like 69 and 68. They are two friends who have been volunteering in 3 or 4 different organizations from the time they retired. And actually, they are very well off and they don't need to be working. They can just be sipping their coffee, putting their legs up in the air, and just sitting there and watching birds. But instead, they have chosen not to look at the screen, but go and help children who have learning disabilities. And so, what is our heart? What is it that is the heart of these 2 ladies who have chosen to volunteer and take efforts to travel by a bus or travel by getting their drivers to drop them? Their efforts are their heart that is connected to it. And so, get yourself linked to a project that connects to your heart. You can start volunteering there. Volunteering is a very important one. Someone says singing, playing, joking and laughing together, learning new recipes and cooking. Great. I really like that. Cooking and laughing, comedy is necessary, isn't it, in our homes? We really do need that. Thank you so much. My husband, most of the times, at least twice at the end of the day, he just reads jokes from one of his recipients that he's on a group or whatever. And so jokes are basically to lighten us at the end of the day. And I like the fact that one of you have mentioned that laughing together and joking is a beautiful one. Good. What is another thing that you can do offline activities? Thank you so much, all of you, for having put that down. Some of the offline activities, apart from what each of you have written there, is I think picking up a sports. I think none of you have mentioned on sports apart from walking and in the garden, and even doing some things like that would be essential. If you're picking up a sports, it'll also include as a physical health, as well as boost your moods and reduce your stress if you take up a sport. So hobbies and crafts, someone has already mentioned. Musical instrument is another therapeutic one. So those of you who don't need to perform anywhere, but learning an instrument just like that would be good. Reading the Bible and spending time with God, yes, beautiful. And that is something that actually empowers and equips us to handle the day more than only having a reduce of stress, isn't it? Apart from reading books and all of these, socializing, I'd like to see that some of you can do some offline activities, can be socializing, meeting people, having people over to your home, meeting people outside, organizing, 2 or 3 friends together and meeting would be really good meetups and outings. The others that are different is what I mentioned was volunteering, and I also was mentioning to you on adding a new skill. Add a new skill to your. So recently I met a friend. She's a medical doctor, and she's retired from her work, and she has chosen to learn Chinese Mandarin. And I was asking her, why are you doing that? She's like, it's very important for the brain to have something else apart from all the medical stuff that I have read. And it is necessary. So learn a new skill that can be something that will be valuable for a legacy that you want to leave, or something that will enhance your relationships. So learn a new skill. Something that me and my husband have joined in recently for is vocals. We are not anywhere close to being musical, but we chose to just sign in for a new skill of increasing our vocals class. And so we can manage to match up to what our children want us to. So that is why we joined in there. So learn a new skill that would be something that will keep you away from gadgets. And board games and puzzles are some things that, again, the same board games and puzzles are available on your apps, available on the phones, but try and get the hard ones, get the boxes out. So try and see if any of you, I was wondering if any of you put that in. What are some board games if you have out there? Why don't you just type it in there if you have any board games? The last one that I'd like to mention as an offline activity is journaling. A gratitude journaling is so necessary. So, when you're talking about gratitude journaling, we're talking about having to connect with the Father and say at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day how important it is for you to recognize and see all what you did and all what happened today for you was a provision from the Father. And so, journaling is another good one. Nice. We have chess here. We have carom, Scrabble, Jenga. Yes, good ones. So you do have those boxes there. I hope they are utilized much at home and not just tucked away somewhere in the attic. I hope that is seen a lot more. So that is a good way of actually escaping and overcoming digital addictions. Good. Well, going, I would like to focus on bringing a closure to my talk by having to focus on saying how is it that we can become more aware of our digital addictions. So to become aware of our digital addiction is so important because we are not, as I started off this talk, it was easier to tell you that we can all tend to justify as to why I need to do what I need to do, including me. I used to do that. So when we were during our family prayer last year, I think my husband was mentioning, saying, I thought you kept looking at your phone, but we were doing our family prayer. I was like, oh, yeah, but that was urgent because my staff was asking me a question. And then I was asking myself, what does that do to me? So, can that phone be at my office desk rather than getting out into the area where we pray? So, the awareness is what I'm going to just spend a few minutes on as I bring this to a conclusion. Becoming aware of your digital addiction is an important step towards addressing and managing it. And so, here are a few suggestions for you to help you become more aware. Reflect on your device usage. Take some time to reflect on how much time you spend on it. So it is important for you to do that reflection and consider the activities that you engage in and take those specific notes. Track your screen time and pay attention to your emotions. So now this one is an important one. And why should you be aware of paying attention to your emotions? Notice how you feel when you are using digital devices. So I think one of you mentioned saying that loneliness. So that is a feeling. What are the other feelings that you experience while you are on any device, on any app, on anything on the digital addictions that we established as internet addiction? So what are your feelings? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling restless? Are you irritable? So when you can't access your phone or computer, is that what happens? While you are on the gadget, what is your feelings? When you're not on it, what is your feelings? So do you experience a sense of relief or pleasure when you have it in your hands? So paying attention to your emotions can reveal the extent to which your digital devices impact your mood and your well-being. And hence it is important for you to pay attention to your emotions, because that's why without our knowledge we would be on a decline of into depression, and we slip into it without our knowledge. And hence awareness is what I was encouraging us to do. Another one is observe your daily routines. What is your daily routines like? Notice how your digital devices fit into your daily routines. Just have a quick scan and run through the day in your mind right now. As soon as I wake up, what am I doing? In the night, am I looking at the time and on the phone, or can I have a watch, or can I have a clock with the radium stickers, those old ones? No, we don't look at the clock anymore, isn't it? We have a digital watch. And so how is your sleep? So try and see from the time you're sleeping and then you're waking up, and then try and take a scan through your day right now, and then look at how does your digital devices fit into your day. Do you need that? even when you're going to the kitchen? Do you need it even when you have to go to the dining table? Are you continuously having to say, okay, I need this in my hand, and wherever I go, I move it in? And if so, that's what I want you to bring awareness to. What is the first thing that you do in the morning with your device? Do you see your devices excessively during meals and during social interactions? I'd like you to run and scan your day through, and that's something that will help you to bring awareness to yourself. Oh yes, I do use it excessively, or else we wouldn't, isn't it? We wouldn't know, because as I said, it is a part of our life, and hence we won't accept it. Impact, evaluate the impact of it on your life, and identify, compared to the days when you were growing up or compared to others, what is the impact for children is social anxiety. And even the impact for some young adults is that they're unable to connect socially. They can all gather together, hang out at a mall, and they will all be messaging each other sitting there right in front of each other. They will sit, but they'll only be messaging, they can't talk. And so that is a crisis. So connecting and with each other, social engagement skills are missing, and that is a crisis. And social anxiety for many, not knowing what to do, and having to step into a crowd, going in for a meeting, or having to meet people when they come to their homes. It is real, and many homes are struggling with individuals of a younger age where there is social anxiety. So what is going on? If you want to evaluate the impact of it on social life, that would be important. And overall, the productivity of life, if you want to be aware of, how is my productivity at in terms of focus, concentration, in terms of the benefit that your digital devices are providing you, as against if you didn't have access to it so much. Well, and another important one that's necessary to while all of us use our digital devices, is to take a 20 seconds break during after every 20 minutes. So if you're at workplace and you definitely have to be using the screen, after, it's called, every 20 minutes, take your eyes off and count 20 and look at something far away, which is 20 feet away. And so it's called 20 20 20. So after 20 minutes, take a 20-second break and look at something 20 feet away, and preferably something more pleasant. But it could be, if you are in a closed room and you're telling yourself, where, what, how can I do it, then it means that you have to turn and look somewhere else, or just get up from your seat for that 20 seconds. That's also important, and that would be very helpful for you. And so you would see that that timer of 20, you are breaking, and it will help you not sit endlessly. The first thing that I mentioned in terms of losing the track of time, that will help you. Well, I do want to keep space for questions, so let's look at what's available on the questions that people have asked. Okay, with regards to my son who's working from home, he's introverted, games for 7 hours every day, never comes out of the room, gets irritated when I try to connect with him, has red eyes occasionally. What can the parent do? Yeah, I think looking at young adults right here. So young adults who have already, if they're working from home, they have the advantage of their money in their hand. So what is the accountability of the young adult, and their relationship dynamics with the parents would be so important here. Because in this place where they are young adults, then they are having their earning already, then our relationship as a parent and child, it's such a parenting question, isn't it? And it's a combination. I see and hear your heart on your concern for your child. I totally hear you. it is so important that you can just communicate only in words of, I wish you can consider, I see your struggle, and in what way can I help you. You can only pose those questions and offer suggestions. But since they are in that space where they are they will be turned off the moment we give instructions, especially when they are adults, and if that's the dynamics between you and your child. But if your dynamics between you and your child is that you, as long as they are under your roof, they have to listen to you, if that's how the Asian culture is and that's how it is in your home, then I suppose taking them out and having a heart to heart talk, sitting at home and making that conversation is difficult. So very often when we as parents at home here want to make a discussion with our children, we call for a family meeting if all of us have to address something. Otherwise, apart from a family meeting, we talk about it individually. We go out and say, I have to talk about something important. And so they immediately geared up and their mindset is, okay, fine, I have to shield myself. What is this conversation about? It's going to be a hard talk with my parent. And there is a preparation. And so I would encourage you as a parent, whoever has put that question there, to just help you understand that one is have that heart to heart talk, helping them understand that it is a struggle and it's a slow decline and it's a fade and it just sucks you in. So if you need help, let's take help right away. And so help your child know that you are on their team and that you can help. 7 hours every day on games is very, very dangerous, because okay, I'm having so many examples of so many different people. There was this person, Arun, who was about maybe 17 or 18 years old, and he came with his parents, and he was doing more than 7 hours as well. And one of the things that happened was he had involuntary movements, one to his neck, that his neck started moving involuntarily, and then his eyes as well, his eyebrows, and then his hands as well, because he needed to continuously work on his gadgets for gaming. So the physiological problems on gaming for so many hours are really high. So if you can empathize with your son and see and have a heart to heart talk saying, this is something that you can't get out of without help, can we go and get help from someone, would be a good thing for him to do, because or else it rubs off on the wrong end in the home, in the relationship between you and him. So try and see how you can support him on it. Thank you for bringing the question, and I hope I've helped you out to some extent on that. What is the other question? What are the best practices of use of mobile phones? I think I covered the best practices. I hope, just let me know if I have covered that, because with WhatsApp and other messaging apps, yes, I think with WhatsApp, a very good question. Thanks for bringing that up. I do talk about WhatsApp to a large extent to many people. Am I in groups in WhatsApp where I should not be? We kind of think that we have to be on all the groups, and I'm very hesitant to jump into groups. And when I'm on groups, sometimes I mute them for 1 year, and then I'll ask myself, oh, what did I do for 6 months on that group? And then I exit. And what happens to groups is you feel the compulsive need to read all of them. And that's the reason not being in the group helps. Or else what happens for you is the FOMO. The fear of missing out happens. Oh my, I didn't read the group. There are about 134 messages. What has happened there? And one of the groups that I'm in is my school alumni group. Now, I see there are about 246 messages. I leave it unread. I don't go to it. When I do, very rarely, and then I connect, say hi, wish someone for a birthday, but then over some video, there are so much of interactions, and if I have to be engaging with that, I really don't have the time for it. So you want to ask yourself, when you get into groups, is it necessary? Second, can you at workplace nowadays there are many individuals who find it necessary that WhatsApp is a part of their work. So, if you're keeping a time at workplace for strategy time, thinking time, learning time, and then addressing other meeting times, I know if you're in technical, you will have the whole day just technical work and meetings up and down. But here is something that's important: is to ask yourself if you can only give yourself in every hour 5 minutes to address anything important on WhatsApp. That is a tab that has worked for many people in the corporate. So that is one. The other messaging apps, you just have to choose and say you'll stay on one, and that has been helpful because then the others who want to reach you will just jump to it. So that's one. Now, it's a common sight that phone in front of them during the time of eating. Is there any problem with this approach? Yeah, certainly it is. It's certainly a difficult thing because then you're not engaging with individuals who are around you, and your complete attending to the individuals and attending to yourself is not there. So when we're talking about the practice of mindfulness, mindfulness can also be practiced while you're eating. So every morsel of food I take in, every bite I take, or every sip I drink of a coffee, am I able to actually taste it? And am I able to just sit and say, thank you, God, for this hot coffee, or thank you, God, for this meal? No, because I, you can't do that if you're busy on the phone and you got to read and plus eat. And that's what happens. And so even that 5 or 10 minutes of a coffee break, if the phone is there, what exactly goes on for us? And so it cuts off relationships. So wanting to ask yourself how you want to get out of digital addiction, it could be a good approach to keep it away from food. But if you're saying that it's only during lunch break you can connect with your spouse, and it's only your spouse you're going to call important things, please have lunch together with your spouse on the phone, not a problem. So choose how you do it. Well, let's look at any other questions here. Okay, how to get rid of depression as a teenager. So it is definitely not in the bounds of digital addiction, I suppose, or I'm not sure whether you're talking about digital addiction. And because digital addiction has caused depression, then the way of dealing with it is very different. So since you've sent a message to me like that, just send me and let me know whether the depression is due to digital addiction. If not, I'll have to answer it differently. Meanwhile, I'll just pay attention to someone else's question. Please add how not to get into digital addiction. Oh, very good one. Very good one. Okay, so what is important when we're talking about not getting into that space? Already drawing the boundaries is so important, and having to say, how can I do the minimum usage of it? Now, all of us, we also get into the point of having to say, let me be listening to a message while I'm cooking, let me be listening to a song while I'm having to sit, or if I'm going to have a shower, let me listen to a song or things like that, and putting the worship on. So listening to songs is absolutely fine, but if the brain is continuously on an overload of listening and adding to knowledge, I would definitely say pay attention to that. Don't The brain can only have so much of capacity to take in, and when you continuously do that, you're losing your concentration and focus. So if you're saying, okay, every Thursdays I'm going to be listening to something, so keeping a timing for everything, and asking yourself, is it really needed or not needed, then it would help. So having to talk about not getting into addiction, always asking yourself questions as to, why do I do it? Is it important? Can I go to a physical shop? And is it possible that I can go to a physical shop and do physical shopping? Or do I have to save time and I can't, and I don't have the time, and hence I have to order online and then I'm doing my shopping on Amazon or shopping on Zepto, Blinkit, all of those apps that are there. Then you want to ask. Whenever I have to download an app, I'll ask a million questions to myself and then only allow myself to download an app. And if possible, I just say no. And my son would say, Ma, without you giving permissions, it's not going to happen. You need to give permission. I was like, no, son, let me think about it. Maybe I'm not going to take that app at all. And so there are times when I delay and procrastinate that decision. It would be important to do so. To ask yourself, why is it that you need it? Why is it that you have to get in there? So if the best way is to not have all the regular apps that are there and to close all notifications and only in a particular timing to do it. The self-discipline is the key. So keeping that in mind would be very helpful to protect yourself from getting into a decline into addiction. Thank you. A very good question. Let's move on to, yes, the depression. How to get rid of depression as a teenager. So you're mentioning that it is about digital addiction. Okay, fine. So when we're talking about depression, something that we want to really keep in mind is to ask, number one, as a professional, I would always ask this question: is your child moving into the phase of any time wanting to take away life? Have they spoken or written things, notes on, okay, why should I live, and things like that? Then I would say, don't hesitate to take help. Rush to do help right away. That would not be safe to just sit over it for long. If that's not the case, but it's just low moods, and you see a lot of bouts of low moods. It was initially low moods once or twice a week, and then afterwards it's become on an everyday basis, once or twice in the day, low moods. And you see the increase in the frequency and the hours or the time of low bouts or low moods. Then you need to ask and have more conversations on what is going on. So if you're talking about a diagnosis of depression already being taken and it is because of the digital addiction, then what is the app they are using, and what's going on in that world? Because the virtual world can cause rejection, can cause pain, can cause shame, can cause challenges, and cause confrontation to each of them. And so what's going on in all of these would be very important to find out from your child. Once you identify what are these particular causes for the emotions, if it is there, then you're able to identify how you can help the child. I hope that if the digital addiction has actually caused just one thought, okay, just one thought of suicide. Okay, yeah. Yeah, if it's just one thought of suicide, still, whether it just bothers you would be important. And the other part is, if you can reply, asking you what is the engagement on digital addiction? Is it chat? Is it virtual worlds of cyber? What would it be like? That's your engagement. So that'll help me understand. Yes, Pastor Joy mentions that being a Christian, one must ask the Lord to fill us with the Holy Spirit, especially the fruit of the Spirit. One of the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. How true, how true. Thank you so much for adding that in. And without the self-control, we can't just go ahead with any of these aspects. And if we set our minds on things above, then it is much easier not to slip into any of these areas. But then if we've already been entangled, then the best way is to hold on to recognizing that God can help us, especially with the fruit of the Spirit, which is self-control. And in the self-control, it's nothing but all that I spoke to you on the points on self-discipline that cannot be done without the fruit of the Spirit, which is self-control. And so, self discipline, in another word, is nothing but self control. And so, it's already given to us by God. And so, the Holy Spirit that indwells us can actually activate that within us. And so, if we are connecting back to God, who's our helper, who's our refuge and strength, and look to Him in this time of trouble to get out of this addiction, it would be really important. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for replying on the with regards to the chat on the depression. It just helps understand that, okay, the chat is something that's slipping you into depression. So what exactly happens in the chat that's causing your depression could be the virtual relationships. And so recognizing that they are unreal. They could be individuals who are real there, but the world of chat, I have to explain to you that there are individuals who are 60 and 80 who project themselves with a different picture, and the world there is not worth trusting. And so, if the danger of what you're slipping into is the cybercrime, so please be aware of it and beware as well, and step out from that place for a while and get help. Then you would just be able to get out of the depression much faster because you've already identified the cause for it, isn't it? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, and really happy that all of you were able to join in. And thank you again to the church and the team for having me here. And it's over back to you, Steffi.